Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982, in Hanson, Massachusetts. She was the fourth child in a family of 5 children. When Maura was 6 years old, her parents divorced, leading her to live mainly with her mother. Despite this, she remained close to her father. Her father, Fred Murray, worked in medical services, while her mother, Lori, took vehicle of the home. Murray completed her education at Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, where she excelled as a star athlete in the school's track team. After high school, Maura decided to attend the United States Military Academy, commonly known as West Point. However, after some time, she transferred to the University of Massachusetts. Maura's boyfriend at that time, Billy Rausch, an Army lieutenant, was posted at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. In the weeks leading up to her vanishing, some of those close to Maura began noticing subtle changes in her demeanor. In conversations with close companions, and even her boyfriend, Maura sometimes hinted at needing a break, or wanting to get away from it all. On February 5, 2004, Maura Murray was on duty at the Melville Dormitory's campus security desk. Around 10:20 p.m., Maura chatted over the phone with her older sister, Kathleen, who was an alcoholic and had been discharged from a rehabilitation center that evening. "We didn't really talk about much. I had been fighting with my fiancé, and we talked about that. But I don't know why she would be upset about that," Kathleen said. 3 hours after the call, Maura began crying. Her work supervisor asked what was wrong. Maura only replied with 2 words: "My sister." When I heard she was crying after that, I couldn't understand why, especially because it's not like her to cry, Kathleen said. 2 days after that, on February 7, 2004, Maura's father, Fred Murray, came over to buy her a new vehicle. Maura's 1996 black Saturn kind of blew a cylinder and was smoking something fierce, according to Fred Murray. Upon returning to the campus, Maura attended a small party with her companions. She mentioned at one point that she wanted to take the vehicle back to her father that same night, which seemed odd given the late hour, the fact that she had been drinking, and her father not expecting the vehicle until the next day. At about 2:30 a.m., Maura informed her companions she was going back to her dorm, but instead, she got into her father's vehicle and headed towards his motel. On Route 9 in Hadley, she crashed into a guardrail, causing about $10,000 worth of damage to the Toyota. The local authorities arrived at the accident site, but no charges were filed against her. Maura got a ride back to her father's motel. She was upset, but it was okay, Fred recalled. After making several calls on Sunday morning, it became clear that Fred's insurance would bear the accident costs. As Fred had a work commitment in Bridgeport, Connecticut, he rented a vehicle, drove Maura back to her dorm, and then left for Connecticut. That night at 11:30 p.m., Fred had a phone conversation with Maura, during which he reminded her to get the accident forms from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Maura agreed to call her dad the following night at 8 to discuss the forms and complete the insurance details. On Monday, February 9th, shortly after midnight, Murray used her computer to look up MapQuest directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. On that particular morning, there's no documented interaction with roommates or companions. However, Maura made a number of phone calls. Shortly before 1 p.m., she called Dominic and Linda Salamone, a couple who own a rental condo at the Seasons at Attitash Resort in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Maura's family had previously visited the Bartlett area and had stayed at the Seasons, but they had never stayed in this particular condo. The Salamones cannot recall the conversation they had with Maura, but they were confident that she didn't make a reservation for their condominium. "We don't operate like a hotel," said Linda Salamone. Linda Salamone said that she might have provided Maura with suggestions for alternative accommodations, although her memory was foggy when the authorities finally interviewed her, nearly a year after Maura went missing. At 1 p.m., she sent an email to her boyfriend that read, "I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking too much of anyone. I promise to call today, though. Love you, Maura." Around 1:24 p.m., Murray sent emails to her professors at the UMass Nursing School and her supervisor, informing them that she would be away from town for a few days due to a death in the family. However, Maura's family later clarified that there was no such death. Liz Druniak, a close friend of Maura for a long time, said, "There was something she wanted to get away and think about. Maybe she just wanted to get away. She was probably under a lot of pressure." At 2:05 p.m., Maura placed a call that lasted around 5 minutes to 1-800-GOSTOWE, a service that provides recorded information about hotel bookings in Stowe, Vermont, and where reservations could potentially be made. However, it's worth noting that the Go Stowe system was unavailable during that time, so Maura could only listen to voice recordings and could not have made a reservation. At 2:18 p.m., Maura called Billy on his cell phone and left a brief voicemail message. She said something along the lines of, "I love you, I miss you, I want to talk." In her vehicle, Maura packed clothing items, toiletries, college textbooks, a cell phone charger, and birth control pills. Upon searching her room later, campus authorities found that the majority of her possessions were packed in boxes and the artwork removed from the walls. At approximately 3:30 p.m., she departed from the university campus in her black Saturn sedan. At 3:40 p.m., Maura Murray withdrew $280 from an ATM. Surveillance footage indicated that she was alone and appeared to be dressed casually. Yet, considering the types and amounts of alcohol purchased, it was clear this wasn't just for a casual night in. Was the alcohol for her, or was it meant to be shared? At 4:37 p.m., Maura checked her voicemail for messages. This was the last recorded call on her cell phone. At some point during the day, she also collected accident report forms from the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles. Following that, she embarked on her journey, heading north towards the wilderness of New Hampshire. The weather on February 9, 2004, was not optimal for a long drive, especially not for a journey through the winding, often slippery roads of New Hampshire. Snow was reported in the areas, which would have made the road conditions hazardous, particularly for someone driving a vehicle as old and as in need of repair as Maura's Saturn. There were snow chains in the trunk, suggesting some preparation for the wintry conditions she would encounter. When her vehicle was later found abandoned, it was noted that the fuel tank was nearly empty. Given the almost empty fuel tank and the lack of specific navigational aids, it seems as if her preparations were a mix of thoughtful planning and perplexing oversight. Sometime after 7 that evening, Maura Murray crashed her vehicle on Route 112 in the rural village of Woodsville, a winding and often desolate road. The exact coordinates of the crash site are approximately 44.1004 degrees north, 71.9570 degrees west, placing it in a rural, wooded area of Woodsville. The site was near a weathered barn, an easily recognizable landmark on Route 112, and the crash site was also not far from a sharp bend in the road, making it a somewhat treacherous section to navigate, especially in poor weather. Houses were sparse but present. There were a few homes within a mile of the crash site, but not within immediate visual range. On the night of the crash, the road was icy and slick,